We are ready to publish our project to iOS, Android, or Windows Phone using PhoneGap. It is assumed that you have a PhoneGap account created at this point. If you do not have one, please see the video on setting an account up. In that video, you will learn what most of the settings do on this particular screen. If you are publishing to Android phone, Windows Phone to test locally on your device, there's not a lot of prep work you need to do at this point, unless you are publishing the finished app to the Android or to the Windows Store. In order to even test the application on your own iOS device, iPhone, iPod, or an iPad device, there is some prep work that needs to be done right now. If you have not already created an Apple developer's account, please see the video on how to set this up first. There is some waiting time if you are creating an account for your corporation, since Apple will verify that you have permission to sign documents on their behalf. If this is a personal developer's account, you should be able to jump back to this video fairly quickly. We are now going to publish for the first time to the Apple Store. The first thing you will need to do is to open your web browser and enter the URL location developer.apple.com and then hit enter. Next, click on the Member Center. Then log into your account. iTunes Connect is a suite of web-based tools for managing content sold on the iTunes Store, iBook Store, and the App Store for iPhone, iPad, Mac, and Apple Watch. As a member of the Apple Developer Program, you'll use this tool to manage apps, agreements, tax, and banking information, sales reports, and more. Remember, this is the first time publishing an application to iTunes Connect, so when I click on iTunes Connect, click on My Apps icon, then click the plus in the upper left corner and choose New App. I am blocked from going any further. A message is displayed that you have no eligible bundle IDs for iOS app. You can click the Register One Here link. This takes us to the Certificate Identifiers and Profile screen. As you can see, the screen does not really show you what you need to do first or what order. Now I know my first step is to click the Certificate Identifiers and Profile section. On this screen, we have choices for the type of application we are publishing. We will choose the selections under iOS apps, and any one of them will take us to this screen. Here we need to create certificates, identifiers, enter devices, and create provisioning files. Before I get into each section, let's take a look at the App Distribution Guide. This is the documentation you would be following if you were creating a native iOS application using all of the tools you get that come with your developer's account. It is broken down into 3 sections: Enroll, Develop, and Distribute. The first of which was done when you followed the Creating an Apple Developer's Account video. The Develop section is taken care of with Alpha Anywhere and PhoneGap. We are now at a point where we want to test an application on a physical device, or we are ready to publish to iTunes. In order to do this, you will need to sign your app according to the documentation at PhoneGap. To get there, go to docs.build.phonegap.com and select iOS signing on the left. This will bring you to a screen we are looking at now. Note in the instructions where it says to convert the iPhone developer certificate to a P12 file on the Mac OS. There are no instructions here on how to do this, and that is what I will show you how to do now. We will then be able to come back and follow the rest of the instructions on signing your application at a later time. The first thing we will create is a developer certificate. The certificate is required to install your application on a device, even for testing, and also to publish your app to the App Store. If we were developing an application using Xcode, we could use it to complete this process. Since we are not using Xcode, we will have to do this manually, so click on the Certificate Signing Request. On this screen, we will create a development certificate. Select iOS App Development, and then select App Store and Ad Hoc. iOS distribution is the final distribution to the App Store. Use ad hoc distribution for testing on a physical device. To manually generate a certificate, you need a certificate signing request, or CSR, file from your Mac computer. In the Applications folder on your Mac, open the Utilities folder and launch Keychain Access. Within the Keychain Access drop-down menu, select Keychain Access, Certificate Assistant, request a certificate from a certificate authority. Now fill in the information in the pop-up screen. User email address, common name, this can be your name or make up a name. CA email address should be empty. Then click on the Save to Disk Radio button, and then click Continue. Enter the certificate name, then click Save. Enter the password. This should be the password that you use for installing applications on your Mac device. If successful, you will see this pop-up screen that your certificate has been created on disk. Press Done and then press Continue. When the certificate signing request was created, a public and a private key pair are generated. Next, click Choose File and select the certificate we just created. Click on the Generate button. Next, download the generated certificate. To do this, click the Download button in the upper right corner and drag the file just generated to your desktop or to the folder if you have already created one. You can now click Done. The iOS distribution file is also saved online in your developer's account if you need to download it at a later time. In this next section, we are going to register an app ID. Enter a name. Enter a bundle ID, which is usually your domain in reverse. In our case here, it is com.alphasoftware. The defaults are okay here for now under App Services, unless you see anything you need for your app. Click Continue. Confirm the information here is correct. Then click on Submit. Now click Done. Your application ID is now created. If you want to test the application on a physical device, you will need to register your devices here. Connect your device to a computer that has iTunes and open iTunes if it does not automatically open once you connect the device. Select the icon for your device, an iPod in my case here. You will then see the serial number of the device. Click on it once and the UDID is displayed. Right-click on the ID to get a copy of this to your clipboard. Go back to the screen we were just on and select Manually Register Devices. Give your device a name and then paste the UDID you just copied. Now click Continue. Then click Register. Registration is now complete, so you can click Done. You should now see your device in the list of devices. Continue to do this now for all your devices you wish to test your application on. In order to install your application on a device, you will need to create a provisioning file. We will create 2 of them now. One is for ad hoc and testing on your own device. The other is for publishing to the App Store through iTunes. First, select Development under Provisioning Files. Click on Manually Generate Profiles. On the next screen, select the iOS App Development Radio button. Then select the Ad hoc Radio button. On the next screen, select your application if more than one is in the list. Then click Continue. Select the certificate we created earlier. Then select the device that will be using this file. If you are trying to install the app on a device that you have not created an app ID for, or if you don't select it here, your app will try to install on the device but will then fail. Now click Continue. Give the profile a name, and again click Continue. On this screen, you will want to click Download. Then drag the file you just downloaded either to your desktop or folder if you created one. Now click Done. Next, we will create a provisioning file for publishing to the App Store. Under Profiles, select Distribution. Click the Add button. Again, select iOS App Development Radio button. This time select the App Store radio button and click Continue. Select the certificate, give it a unique name, click Continue. Download the file and drag it to where the other files have been saved. Then click Done. You now see the 2 provisioning files we just created. These are saved online, so you can download them later if you need to. I have now put all the files that we created into a single folder, so it is easier to find the files when we need them without the other clutter on the desktop. We are at the build.phonegap.com site, and we want to click on the Docs menu up at the top. On the left, click IO Signing. At this stage, we now have all the files required to follow these steps. Open the Keychain Access application in the Application/Utilities folder. Select File, Import, then navigate to the certificate file you obtained from Apple. This has a .cer extension. Select the certificate you created and then click Open. The certificate is now imported. The certificate we just created is good for 1 year from the date we created it. Now select the Keys category in Keychain Access. Select the private key associated with your iPhone development certificate. The private key is identified by the iPhone Developer Public Certificate that is paired with it. Command-click or right-click the iPhone Developer Certificate and select Export iPhone Distribution, Alpha Software Inc., etc. This is what it says for this particular application, but yours will be a little different. Name the file. Enter the password you want to use and make sure it is something you will remember, since you will need to enter it every time you use it. Click OK. Enter the keychain password. You can now see the file we just generated. The PhoneGap documentation shows the next 3 steps to create a signing key. I will first sign into my PhoneGap account. As you can see here, I was already signed in. Select the little avatar in the upper right corner and select Edit Account. Click on the Signing Keys tab, then click Add a Key under the iOS section. We are going to create 2 signing keys while we are here for the same project, so you need to name them so you can distinguish between the 2 ad hoc and distribution signing keys you create. I have chosen Final GDRNE ad hoc to distribute to a local device. Under the certificate P12 file, click the Choose File button. Select the P12 file we created earlier, and then click the other Choose File button to select the provisioning file we created for ad hoc deployments. Click the Submit key, and now we are done with the ad hoc. We now want to create signing key for deploying the app to the App Store, so we will pretty much follow the same steps we just did. Click the Add a Key under the iOS section. Call it Final GDRNE Deploy as the name this time. Under the certificate P12 file, click the Choose File button. Select the P12 file we created earlier, and then click the Choose File button to select the provisioning file we created for distribution to the App Store. Click the Submit button. I will now unlock both of these keys by selecting the lock icon highlighted in yellow. Enter the password we created earlier. Click the Submit key. The icon now has a gray highlight showing that it is ready to use. I will now follow the same steps for the Deploy key. Please note that these keys will remain active for about 1 hour before you have to unlock them again. Since I already have the GDRNE application on PhoneGap build, I will change some of my PhoneGap settings here in Alpha Anywhere. I will change the application name, change the application ID, uncheck Android and Windows Phone since we are just doing iOS now. Click the Save and Upload to PhoneGap Build button. And note that this failed the first time. This is because this is the first time uploading to build, and therefore I have not yet associated a signing key with it yet. I need to go back to PhoneGap Build, where you will now see that iOS is red, meaning that the build failed. Click on the application name, in this case Ad hoc GDRNE. This new screen is where we need to associate a signing key with this application. Click the drop-down box to open a list of signing keys created. Then select the key we unlocked for ad hoc deployment. The lock is yellow, so I need to again enter the password. Click the Rebuild button. This might take a little while to build. The IPA button is no longer red, which means we successfully built the application. Click on the IPA button and save the file. Here we see the file we created. We can now create the deployment to App Store the same way. Now that our application has been built, we can scan the QR code generated by PhoneGap to install the app on the device. I am using a free barcode reader called QR Reader, but you can use any of the many QR code readers you will find on the App Store. Once the code is scanned, you should then be prompted to install, so click continue or whatever instructions are given next to continue. You can now see my device in the application installing. Once installed, open and test your application on the device. We are now going to gather images of our application by taking screenshots using the device. To take a screenshot, click the power button and the home button at the same time. You will see the screen flicker or hear the camera clicking sound, or both. Switch screens and continue to take the screenshots you want to show in the App Store. To publish your app to the App Store, you will need at least one screenshot and up to a total of 5 screenshots. To get the screenshots we created, I am going to use the Photos application on my Mac. Click the Import tab and then select the screenshot you want. Click the Import. Now drag and drop these images into a folder for use later on in this video. I use a program called Sketch to generate the different screen sizes I showed earlier in the iOS documentation. You can get a trial copy of it at sketchapp.com, but I would recommend purchasing it since it is an awesome tool to use for creating mock images of the app screens throughout the development process. You will then need to download Sketch Template at sketch2appstore.com, which is a free template we will load into Sketch. I used Sketch in this template when I generated the assets for App DevCon 2015 app published to the App Store, Google Play, and the Windows Phone Store. I am going to make a copy of this template, and you can do the same with the one you downloaded to keep it intact. Click on File and then click Duplicate. I will now replace all of these images with the ones I captured on an iPad Touch device earlier. Click on one of the images to be replaced. Click on Fill. Choose an image. Search for the location you stored the screenshots. Continue doing this for the rest of the screenshots that were captured. Click the Export button. Sketch now creates all the screen sizes we need. We will select and export all the images created, but not use all of them. I have created folders for all the image sizes we will be using when creating our App Store page. I then selected and dragged the screenshot-only images to their proper folders. We now have everything we need to publish our app to iTunes App Store. First thing to do is log back into your account at developer.apple.com. Click on the Member Center, enter your username and password, and then click Sign In. Click on iTunes Connect, click on My Apps, and then click the plus button in the upper left. Click New App in the drop-down menu. As you can see, this time there is no error that it cannot find any bundles. I will first select Bundle ID and make sure my app is there, and then select it. Fill in the rest of the information and then click Create. Most of this information is filled in for you already. I just need to add categories for the app's location in the App Store. Then click Save. For pricing, I am going to choose Free. However, you can select from a number of other predetermined prices for your app. Since this app will only be used in the US, I will uncheck all the checkboxes and then select United States. Everything else here is okay as it is, so now we can click Save again. The next thing to do is fill in all the information about your application. Click on the Prepare for Submission button. This screen is where you will enter all the information that tells the customer what the app is all about. We will start by dragging all the images to the proper tab. You can drag one at a time or drag multiple images. I will now do this for all the rest of the images. Enter keywords that describe the app to make it easier for people to find the app in the App Store using the search tools provided by the App Store. And then describe your application here. If you have not already done so, download a copy of Application Loader. Launch Application Loader from the App Finder. Choose the IPA file that you generated using PhoneGap. Choose an icon for display in the App Store. And finally, submit your application for review. This can take up to several weeks before your app is published, and that's only if Apple doesn't find any issues with your application.